Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Sorry I haven't made a video in a little while. I actually just started nursing school last week, so that's been a little overwhelming. Trying to get used to the schedule, the amount of work they put on you, even right away, is crazy. I had my first two tests actually yesterday. We have online lectures on top of time spent in class. It's just, I have not had much time for anything, but we did have a little bit of a schedule change today. We got out 2 hours early, so I figured, let me make a video, maybe 2 videos. So I figured I would just get that done while I had a little bit of extra time before I have to go pick up my kids. So if you'll notice, you'll see the sunlight streaming in over here. I normally film at night, so I'm not used to having that light come in. It's a little distracting, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So I am doing a monthly wrap-up for the month of August. This has been kind of a weird month for me. July we had Booktubeathon, and I read a whole bunch of books, more than I usually do. You know, a lot in that week, and then trying to finish up at the end of the month. I was also taking a class over the summer, Anatomy and Physiology 2. So I think when August came around, I needed a break. So I've not read a lot of books. I've actually been reading mostly graphic novels. That's something that's kind of new to me. I've read a few, like in the past year or so, but so I've just been trying out some new ones. And I have this really cool app, and I believe I mentioned it in another video. It's Hoopla, and you can get it on your phone, your computer, your laptop, and it's great because it's completely free, so I love that. And you borrow titles. You can get ebooks, graphic novels, audiobooks. They also do like movies and TV shows, which I have not checked out yet. The only downside is that you are limited to 10 items a month. So that kind of sucks if you're going through any of this fast, but it's free. So, I mean, you can't really complain too much. And this format is great just because, like, my library doesn't really carry a lot of graphic novels. They have some, but not a huge selection. They don't have any of these that I've recently been reading. And these are not ones that I generally want to buy, or at least maybe not buy now. Graphic novels tend to be expensive. They can be. You know, you're getting something that's so small and thin and such a quick read, and then you're spending 12, 15, maybe 20 bucks. You know, and some of these ones that are like several volumes in a big hardcover kind of book are even more expensive than that. So I just don't want to be spending the money on that, especially if it's something I've never read before. Certain ones I do want to have, and there's actually one that I read that I plan on getting because I want a physical copy. But for the most part, I think that this is really great. It introduces you to new books, maybe new genres, and you don't have to buy it. It's similar to a library. You can check it out, and then, oh, if you really like it, you want a copy, go and buy it. And then you don't feel like you've wasted your money. Get a drink here. It's been really warm this week. I don't know about everywhere else in the country, but in Colorado, it's been like mid-80s. It feels like it should be cooler. It's almost September. It's getting close to fall. I am so looking forward to fall weather. That is my favorite time of year. The leaves change. It's cooler. You can wear jeans and sweaters, but still wear layers when it gets warmer in the middle of the day. That's a whole nother topic, so we don't need to get sidetracked here. And if you hear squeaking, that is my dog playing with, it is a leg. It's from some toy that she ripped the leg off. I don't even know what it is. And she's, actually wagging her tail right now, playing and squeaking away. The first one that I read was The Woods by James Tynion. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, the fourth. Probably a lot of people have heard of him if you're watching YouTube videos. This is where I heard of it, several different videos. I can't remember specifically like whose channel or what videos, but I heard it mentioned several times. It sounded really cool, so I wanted to check that out. I'll actually show you on here on my laptop. That is the cover, and then that is what the web page kind of looks like. You know, you have your little blue button to borrow it, and then it puts it on like your own little page. You can add it to your favorites. And then underneath they just kind of give a synopsis of what it's about. And they will also list at the very bottom of the page, they give you recommendations, whether it's, oh, it's the next one in the series, maybe it's something else by this author, or just a similar title, similar genre that you might be interested in reading if you like this. So I think that's really cool. But if you don't know anything about it, it's this high school in Milwaukee. They are at school one day. There's a group of students, the teachers, faculty, it's several hundred people. And one day they start having these weird things happen, and all of a sudden they're like transported to another world on the other side of the universe or something. Like, they have no idea where they are, how they got there, who sent them, brought them there. You know, they just, you know, they're just there, and they're trying to figure it out. The teachers, I think it's funny, the teachers are mostly kind of useless. At least in this first one. I've only read volume 1. They're trying to just set order and control the kids and keep them safe inside there, but they're not really doing anything else. There's actually some people that are trying to take advantage of the situation and get control for bad reasons. I don't really want to give too much away, but and then you have this small group of students who are kind of fighting back against that, like, you know, why are we just staying here? Why aren't we doing anything? Nobody's looking for us. Nobody's coming to get us. Nobody's going to save us. They don't know where we are, how to get us. So they take it upon themselves to leave the school and search this forest, these woods that are out there, and, you know, try to figure out what happened. How can they get home? And there's all sorts of creatures and dangerous things out there, but they're trying to figure out, you know, there's probably a reason, a purpose that we were brought here, and we were meant to like solve this puzzle. And it is really, really cool so far, really engaging. You know, from the very beginning, they just kind of jump right into the story. Some of the characters I'm not too sure about, and I'm like, well, why are they doing this? Why are they acting this way? But overall, definitely got me interested in reading the next one in the series. I'm going to be checking that out. It's just it's a really cool read, and I'm very interested to know, like, what's going to happen next and where are they going with this. Now, the next one I read is Outcast by Robert Kirkman. And if you're at all a fan of The Walking Dead, or possibly even if you've just heard of The Walking Dead and never watched it or read any of it, you know who Robert Kirkman is. He is the one who created the whole world. And he also writes other graphic novels as well. And I was really curious to check out some of his other work. I've kind of heard mixed reviews about his other graphic novels, that some people really enjoy them. Some people think that maybe he doesn't spend as much time on them because he spends so much time on The Walking Dead, that these are lacking. So I was kind of curious to check it out for myself and see what I thought. And I honestly, I agree a little bit. Here, let me actually show you the cover of this one too. That is Outcast. This one is also kind of a horror story. It is about demonic possession. There's a main character, Kyle Barnes, who has kind of his whole life been surrounded. He has not personally experienced it, but other people around him, his family. I'm trying not to give too much away, but it's just been in his life a few times, and it's kind of like, why is this happening to him? He's become like this recluse, and he doesn't want to get close to people. He doesn't want to go out into the world, until this priest who knows him from when he was a kid. He has a kid now who is possessed, and he asks for Kyle's help. And then after going and helping him, it kind of starts snowballing, and then there's other people affected, and now he's finally at the point where he's trying to maybe figure out, like, well, why is this happening? And, am I being targeted? Why? Why is, whether it's him or just people around him, why is this happening to him? It's an interesting premise, but honestly, it didn't seem like too much happened in the story. I expected maybe a little bit more. I think it had more unanswered questions at the end of it. For every question you kind of had answered, there were 5 more that came up. And I kind of get why they do that. They want you to pick up the next one. They want you to keep reading the series. And I think I'm interested enough that I will pick up the next one. But if it's more of the same and I feel like I'm not satisfied, I'm not getting anything out of it, I'm not getting any questions answered, I'm not sure if I will continue. But so far it's not bad. The next one is in the DC universe. I've mentioned before, that's what I read when I was a kid. I read a lot of DC comics. I was very into Batman. He was my favorite. Probably still is. Very interested in the Joker and any Joker-centric comics, anything that really features him. And the Killing Joke, and here's the cover. It's kind of one of the Joker's origin stories, one of his possible origin stories. There's several of them, which I always really enjoy. I love, especially when it comes to villains, learning their backstories and why are they the way they are, and have they always been this way? Were they a good person and stuff happened and kind of really just change them and set their life in a different direction. So I found this a really fascinating one. So overall, I thought that was a really good one. This is probably one of my favorites that I've read. And then the last one I read was definitely one that I've seen mentioned on YouTube a lot and really got me interested in reading it. It has gotten rave reviews. I don't know if I've really read a lot of bad stuff about it. I mean, I could see you not liking it if maybe you don't like graphic novels, or you don't like these kind of stories, you're not interested in this subject matter. It's very like a mixture of science fiction, fantasy, which is right up my alley. It's definitely what I'm drawn to and I love. But if you don't like that kind of stuff, you probably wouldn't be interested in this. But it is Saga, Volume 1. And so on Booktube, you've probably heard of it, even if you're not interested in graphic novels, but I absolutely loved it. This is one, as soon as I was done reading it, I'm like, I have to go out and buy it. Not had a chance to do that yet, but I definitely plan on buying it. I want to own this. I want to own them all. I don't even know if the rest of them are as good as this, but I like this so much that's just the way I am feeling right now. I want them in my hands. I want to be able to read them over and over again. look at this beautiful artwork. The artwork is incredible in this book. You know, the story goes, it's a kind of an intergalactic war that's being had mostly between these two worlds, these two species, though there are other species kind of getting drawn into it. And it's got a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet vibe, but more adult, because that. It's got the kind of star-crossed lovers vibe. You know, these are two soldiers on different sides, obviously. One gets taken captive, they ended up falling in love, and they actually don't go too much into that story, so you're not really sure, at least with this one, how that happens, but they end up falling in love. They escape together, and they have all these people that are now coming after them for what they've done. And you have like these alien creatures, and it's just so creative and unique and weird and out there, and I just totally fell in love with it. As soon as I read it, I wanted to pick up the next one, and pretty soon I'm gonna start buying them. But I definitely would recommend it if you are at all interested in graphic novels, science fiction, fantasy, amazing artwork, any of that. Pick it up. You will love it. It is so awesome. And that was all that I have been reading on that app. And then I have a few physical stuff. One book I don't have because it was a library book and I returned it. But it was Blood Rights by Jim Butcher, one of the Harry Dresden in that series. And it was something I mentioned during Book 2-a-thon because I started reading it during that, didn't finish it in July because stuff happens and I just didn't. But I finished it actually the first couple days of August, and probably one of my favorite in the series. It really delved into Harry's backstory, his family life. Karen Murphy, the police officer in that series, who they kind of butt heads in the first few books, and now she's kind of being drawn more into his world and learning about all that, helping him out. Her character is really being fleshed out. She's much more involved in the books, which I really enjoy. I like her as a character, so I'm glad that we're seeing more of her. But overall, just a really, really good read. You know, if you're at all interested in urban fantasy, especially urban fantasy with a male protagonist, since I would say a good majority probably are female lead characters, definitely pick them up. They are ones that I think I'm always going to enjoy this series. I'm always going to keep picking these books up because you know what to expect as a whole. You know how he writes and how the characters are, what's going on in this world. But you're going to be surprised with every book. He throws in some nice little twists every time. So they're fun reads. I like them. And then kind of back to comics and graphic novels. I had picked some up and was reading some from the library, and one that I own. This I had mentioned in a library book haul, this Princess Leia one that I got from my daughter, and then she wasn't interested in reading it, so I decided to read it. And it's one that takes place after the destruction of her home world, Alderaan. And she kind of decides to go on this little mission by herself and then ends up with somebody else. But looking for other people from her world that are living elsewhere, and she's trying to bring them all together. And I was a little disappointed in this. I've never read a Star Wars comic book, so I'm not sure how they are in general. I thought this one was just a little boring, a little flat. I would have liked to see more action. I was not happy in the characters. I thought that they were very just one-dimensional. Even Princess Leia, you know, everybody if you've never seen Star Wars or read any of the books, you know who Princess Leia is. And I just thought that so much more could have been done with her, and she was not the strong, independent character that we know from the movies. I think they tried to go there, and they kind of missed the mark, for me at least. So it was okay, but I'm not sure I want to pick up any more of these. And then speaking of Robert Kirkman, I have been reading some of the Walking Dead graphic novels. It's getting to the point where I am just so anxious for the next season of The Walking Dead, which does not start until October, and it's kind of driving me crazy waiting. And if you watch the series, you know why. Maybe if you don't know, because everybody's been talking about it. So I've been trying to get my fix by reading the graphic novels. This one I own. This is book 1. So it's, I don't know how many individual comics are in here, but I do like it. And then after I finished this one, my library has book 2 and book 3, and I picked them up and I read them, and I actually just recently returned them. I probably should have held on to them. But I like them. I actually prefer the TV show, I think. It works in this format. It's not that it's because it's a graphic novel that I don't like. The artwork is decent. It's all black and white, which I think kind of fits with the mood of the story. It's just, the world is the same, and there's a lot of the same characters. But if you're reading if you start reading these and you haven't, and you've only seen the show, a lot of the characters are very different than the characters in the TV show. Some are missing altogether. Like Daryl is not, and Merle, his brother Merle, are not in the comics. They're only in the TV show. But so many characters are so different. That's the one thing I think I'm having a hard time with reading these, is I don't care about a lot of the characters. And I hate saying that, but I'm just not as interested in reading about these characters. Something bad happens and I'm like, I didn't care about you anyway, so I don't care if you get eaten. Carol, who is one of my favorite characters on the TV show, I hate her in these. She is awful. The Carol in the comics is similar to the Carol from the very, very beginning of the TV show, but she doesn't, at least so far from what I've read, she doesn't evolve. She's getting worse. Lori is definitely worse. I actually don't mind her in the TV show. I know a lot of people hate her, but I hate her in this. I'm not too big of a fan of Rick. Glenn and Maggie and Dale are probably the only characters that I kind of like in the comics. It's like everybody else. Herschel, one of my favorite characters, he's not too great in the comics. So it's just hard to be interested in something you're reading if you don't care about any of the characters. Yeah, you can read it if you just want to read a zombie story and you like that stuff, but I need more, at least. I need to be invested. I don't want to just read about the world and violence and scary stuff. I prefer character-driven stories. I don't care if it is a regular book or if it's a graphic novel. I need to be invested in those characters. That being said, I still enjoy it. I can see where they get a lot of the inspiration. There's definitely a lot of similarities, even though they change things. There's a lot of similarities. The graphic novels are definitely more violent. I said I'd finished up book 3, and without spoiling anything, all I can say is I am so glad that the stuff that happens in book 3 that they did not put in the TV show, that they changed it. It's focusing on, that book is focusing on the governor, and it's when they find Woodbury, and it's the governor is, if you think he's horrible in the TV show, he is a sociopath in the graphic novels. There is no humanity in that man. And yeah, I'm just glad there are certain scenes that did not make it to the TV show, because I kind of think it was a little gratuitous and not even really relevant to the story. And that might sound strange, talking about a book about zombies, that any kind of violence is gratuitous, but I just don't think it was necessary. But I am enjoying them. I'll keep reading them. You know, I own the first one. I'm not sure if I'm going to buy any more. But they're nice little fillers in between the TV show. I can't wait for the show to start up again. It is probably my favorite show on TV, and I miss it. I tend to rewatch the seasons over and over again. I have watched every season, I don't know how many times. But that's me. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, check them out. You'll probably be interested. Just know that the characters are very different. That's probably the biggest thing. And some of the storylines. And then the last book, which I DNF'd, but I just wanted to throw it out there and bring it up because that doesn't happen to me very often. But I had gotten this one at the library. I mentioned it in my library book haul. It's called Caught Dead-Handed. It is it's a mystery. It's like a supernatural mystery, which I've never read before, and I thought it sounded interesting. I have not read mysteries in a long time, and I kind of wanted to get back into that. But I do read a lot of fantasy, and I thought, oh, it's got witches, and it's a murder mystery, and it just sounded cool. But I picked it up and put it down so many times. I think I got almost to 100 pages. I actually gave up once and said, no, I'm going to try again. I read like 10, 15 more pages, and I put it down. I'm like, you know what? I don't have time. I hate DNFing books, but I am so busy between school and work and my kids and everything else that I don't have the time. And I don't want to devote what little free time I have to reading something that I'm not enjoying. It's not horrible. It's just, it's not engaging. It's not pulling me in. I don't like the way this author writes. You know, the idea is interesting. I don't think she's the best writer. And it's been very slow moving, kind of getting into it. And I feel like there's kind of extra stuff that just doesn't need to be in there. And then it's just kind of dragging. And I don't know. I mean, I picked up the first 2 books because they had to, and I figure, well, if I really like this, then I'll have the second book already. But and I looked it up on Goodreads, and it's got pretty decent reviews. So maybe it's just me. Maybe this is just not the type of book I can read. Maybe I'm not in the right mood or right frame of mind to read this book. You know, I mean, definitely don't take my word for it. If this sounds interesting, give it a shot. I mean, it's like a cozy little supernatural mystery, and I think people that really, really like this stuff and read a lot of these will enjoy it. It's not horrible. You know, I don't want to say that it was horrible in any respect. It just didn't grab me. And I'm somebody who, if I don't get grabbed right away, I just tend to not want to read. Usually I will finish. I've done that in the past. I've finished a lot of books I didn't want to, but I've gotten to the point where I just don't do that anymore. If it doesn't grab me, usually within the first 50 pages, and I gave it a good 80, 90 pages before I gave up. But that's just how I read now. All right. So this is a long video, and I feel like I say that every time. Maybe I need to do more videos. If I have time, do more videos and make them shorter. I do less videos and I make them super long. So I'm going to wrap this up. I will try to do what I'm going to be reading in September video here probably soon. So until then, I will see you in my next video. Bye.